Down in the Dugout, powered by Scout Scoops.
Covers everything baseball and so much more. Tonight we have our usual co-hosts in Chris Owisha and Scott Spindler, and I guess I might as well go ahead and refer to him as just another co-host, Logan Paul. Logan Paul. Oh my God!
Yikes!
First shot. First shot was the first shot.
First shot.
Yeah, first
That was a low blow.
Yeah, Logan is with us. You guys know him from his social media channels, his Twitch channels, and of course, at Nutsy Poo. And then we're also very blessed tonight to have Rich Grisham. He's part of the out of the park development team. So now it's not going to be an interview type with Rich tonight. It's just he's part of the group tonight, talking baseball video games. We're giving him a break from OOTP, and we're just having fun with Rich tonight. Welcome aboard, gentlemen.
Good to be here.
Glad to be
Thanks.
here.
Awesome. So obviously, guys, big day today, opening day baseball. We've been talking about this, it seems like forever now, ever since the very first podcast a couple months ago. And so here we are. Some of our teams are in action today, some weren't. If you're a Mets fan, sorry, Rich. Things happen, right? So what I like to do is I want to get you guys' thoughts about today. There's a couple games, some more. The slate's full tonight. But Chris, talk to me about what you saw today. Anything stand out?
Well, I didn't really get to watch anything because I was at work all day. But the little bit I did see, I think the Northsiders lost. I think that happened.
Is that where you're going first? Really? That's your first words out of your mouth?
Yep.
I mean, Logan, how did your team do today?
Well, let's just go ahead and pencil Key Brian Hayes in for Rookie of the Year after putting a pitch deep into left center in Wrigley with the wind blowing. Just wow, that kid is he's an animal.
That was a nice shot.
The Cubs need to throw some strikes. That was their biggest issue today. Although the Pirates had a
very surprising performance by Hendricks.
The Pirates. And here's the thing. I know Scott has been just teasing it all week. Today was the reason that I think the Pirates are going to be better than people think they're going to be. I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I'm not going to go there. I don't even think they win 70 games. But that offense, that lineup is actually pretty good. There looks like there's 3 to 4 hitters that could hit 300. They're not going to hit for a whole lot of power, but they're going to be on base a lot. If their starting pitching can even give them average performances, they're going to be in a lot of baseball games. And that's what you saw with the Cubs today. And there was a couple of times where they really could have blown the game open with the bases loaded, I think 3 different times today, and they just didn't. But that offense is a lot better than people are going to give them credit for.
I will agree with that. I think the lineup is solid, and I think it's going to be a little bit inconsistent throughout the year. I would warn against using the Cubs as a barometer. The staff was just so inconsistent today. I think it was 11 walks today, 3 hits out of that staff. Chris Bryant looked like the Chris Bryant that I think he is. He really is. Big holes in his swing. I just don't like him. I think this is the Chris Bryant that we're going to see moving forward. Don't talk to me about injuries. Don't talk to me about anything, because most Major League Baseball players deal with those. All right. So I didn't like what I saw, but what I saw, was it surprising? No, because it's the same issues that this team has had last year and the year before. They can't put the bat on the ball. They can't get on base. And when they do, they don't take advantage of it. Their pitching is inconsistent on the mound. And Chris and I were just talking about this before we went live. It's going to be no surprise that you're going to see Hendricks gone from this team, traded, and Bryant gone from this team, traded. But I don't think the return is what folks think that it's going to be. I really don't. We talked. Kyle Hendricks isn't a number one, and we got to stop looking. He has the stuff to be a number one if it was consistent, but he doesn't have the speed to get himself out of those jams. He doesn't. And as a major league pitcher or any pitcher, you're not going to have that accuracy every single time you step on the mound. You're just not. And so when you don't have something to overcompensate for your accuracy issues, which he doesn't, then you turn into an average at best pitcher, and that's what Kyle Hendricks is. He shows moments of glory, and then he shows moments like this. And this is what he is, and this is what he's going to be moving forward. That's my take.
And that's the scary thing about that Cubs rotation is that there's 4 guys that throw 89 miles an hour,
Yep.
which means
Same.
they have to be on point
Yep.
every single time they hit the mound if they're going to compete. Because I mean, look, I love guys that are control finesse pitchers like Hendricks. I do like Hendricks a lot, but it's really tough to build a staff on that. I mean, we see look at the average major league bullpen.
Oh,
There's nobody that throws 89 miles an hour coming out of the bullpen anymore. I mean, everybody's 95 plus.
right.
And the ones that aren't, they're usually not successful.
Yep.
I mean, look what the Yankees have trotted out for years. I mean,
Yeah.
they're dominant for a reason. So I would be very curious. I think both these teams, both the Pirates and the Cubs, how different do these starting lineups look at the end of the year for both teams? Because who is going to be traded from both of them? I mean, then I could totally see the Pirates. They're in a rebuild mode. There's going to be some guys that are there that are not going to be on that team. And if they can get something good for them, they're going to take it. Same thing with the Cubs. Like if the Cubs fall apart and they're not in it, if they're 10 games out, there's no reason not to. I mean, why would you keep some of those guys, especially on expiring contracts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be fun not fun for either of you guys, but it'll be interesting to see what those teams look like, come September 1st.
If I went into the season with the expectation that the Pirates were going to win 60 games, so anything above 60 games is a win for me in my book. I think realistically, the only 2 people that are going to get moved by the Pirates in their starting lineup right now is Adam Frazier. And if that happens, all you're going to see is Kevin Newman move over to second base and Cole Tucker get called up. And the other movement that's going to happen is Gregory Polanco, if they can get someone to take his
agree
contract.
on Polanco. Yep.
But
Absolutely.
I mean, I think everyone else either doesn't have enough value to move or are going to be there long term, like Key Bryant and Brian Reynolds. Although something is wrong with him, and I'm scared because I consider Brian Reynolds a really big part of the Pirates' core moving forward. And through spring and today, he didn't look very good, and he was horrible last season. And I'm really hoping that is not a trend starting.
Rich, talk to us. What'd you see today, my friend?
Well, I was hoping, obviously, to have the Mets on, but that didn't happen. But I was able to watch. I watched pretty much the whole Yankee Blue Jay game. And as a Mets fan, I was delighted to see the Yankees lose. I enjoyed that quite a bit. I love the Blue Jay uniforms today. I don't know if you guys saw them.
Absolutely.
They're great.
Yep.
They look just fantastic. So that really, was cool. I also just caught the Phillies walk-off win a few minutes ago. That was, it was cool, right? Like, a walk-off win is just fun to see,
cool.
and I'm now, I've done I always get these numbers wrong. I think the right term is I've done a 180 on the runners on second base and extra innings in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually totally on board with that now. I know there will be dozens of times the Mets lose because of it where I will hate it, but I'm kind of okay with it in the regular season, in a year of the pandemic, and somebody who, I don't know, like, again, maybe it's just the franchise manager in my head, but like, I don't like having to use 14 guys in a game in a regular season. So I was, I'm cool with that. So that was fun watching the Phillies walk out. And again, because both teams get the same thing. Like, it's not like someone has an advantage. It's interesting watching the Dodgers get beat around a little bit. So I've been just thoroughly enjoying the fact that there is real Major League Baseball all over my television and my computer today. It's just been great. It's such a letdown. Look, opening day games are canceled all the time. Weather is ridiculous. It was snowing when McGee hit his home run today. That was wild.
Sliding in the second, that was funny.
Yeah. But losing 2 days, losing today, losing tomorrow, that's no way you want to start a season. But whatever. What are you going to do? It's been.
Rich, I actually coming as a Mets fan. What's your thoughts on Lindor?
Love it. What's not to
love it?
Love it. I mean, they're the Mets. So we don't have exactly the world's best track record with signing big money deals, But look, if you're gonna invest money in a guy, this is the guy, right? Like it's him, it's Mookie Betts. Like there's some people who are special, and Francisco Lindor is special. Yep. And I am delighted. I'm thrilled and I'm hopeful. And I have nothing but great things to say about it.
And that contract, I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, that's a no opt-out contract. It's a straight 10-year contract, correct?
Oof.
Yeah.
50 million.
I think so, yeah.
Other than that, it's a straight deal. Yeah.
Okay.
And a little fun fact is, I think Bobby Bonilla will still be getting paid after Lindor's contract is up.
Everybody at the company reminded me of that this morning. Literally, it was right there in the main page or the main channel and Slack. Everybody reminded me. There is one other lowly Mets fan in the out of the park developments team, but it's just the two of us. We have to face the rest of the crew on our own.
Well,
you gotta embrace it at this point.
Oh, of course. I'm an old man. I've been a Mets fan since before Gary Carter. I remember when Gary Carter came to the Mets. I'm that old, right? That was a big deal. So no, I'm in this thing for life. There ain't no, you embrace everything about it. And I will say, right, like it does make the very few times that they win something that much more special, right? Like 2015, they didn't win the World Series, but they won the pennant. I'll remember that season as one of the greatest baseball seasons of my life because it was unexpected and it was incredible. And they did something that I didn't think would ever happen, And like there's so many years where they were supposed to be good and they weren't. That year they weren't really supposed to be that good and they were. So, I embrace it. The good, the bad, and everything, at this point. There's no other way to go.
Right. Scott, I want to definitely hit you up, especially after your team has had a walk-off win. But I do want to come back, remind me, I want to talk about that Blue Jays-Yankees game because there was something that was very attractive in watching that game, and it happened on the mound, and it happened to both pitchers. But, Scotty, talk to me about your day, buddy.
I guess, the one thing I do want to talk about real quick before I even talk about some of the games is I saw the schedule for tonight, and I was like, okay, what games are coming on now? And obviously, Rich brought it up, but the Mets and Nats got postponed, and the Red Sox I think got called off today. But it's just curious that they didn't have a backup game for like the primetime game tonight, especially opening day. You would think you would have like maybe the Marlins in Tampa or a game that was going to be a safe game. In other words, a game that was going to be played in warm weather somewhere, or it would have been the ideal perfect scenario to put Trout and the White Sox on it, primetime tonight, 7, 8 o'clock in the East, prime time where everybody's watching baseball on opening day, and then do the late game. You could do the Giants and the Mariners later, whatever. But it's just curious that there was there's nothing coming on in prime time tonight as it's opening day. Again, the weather is a factor, but you would think that the scheduling would be a little bit better to take this kind of stuff into consideration, especially since obviously games in the East are always postponed this early in the season. But not much you could do about that. But anyway. Going back to some of the stuff we talked about, you guys were talking about earlier. I know we were talking about the White Sox, or not the White Sox, the Cubs and the Pirates. And one of the things that I think could keep the Cubs hanging around more than they probably would be all season is something that, if you look at the scoreboard right now, you're looking at the Cardinals, and they're winning their game, I think, 11-6 against Cincinnati right now. It's late in the game. So you're like, okay, the Cardinals are having a big game. But Jack Flaherty got hit around a little bit. I think he only lasted about 4 1/3 innings, so I think he gave up, 6 or so earned runs. So if that happens on a regular basis for the Cardinals aren't going to be what people are thinking they're going to be. They need Flaherty to be an ace, So that's just something to keep an eye on.
There was a lot of weird stuff going on, like Nola was looking amazing and he fell apart. Marquez, I don't know if you saw Marquez. He had like 7 walks in 4 innings. Same with Castillo. Castillo completely fell apart. He was a mess. He didn't even get a strikeout. It's just a very odd. Usually, I feel like normally the pitchers sometimes take advantage on opening day.
Yep.
But it definitely didn't seem that way today.
No, it's I was watching a bunch of different games in between traveling back home, and I saw the Phillies. I saw Nola was pitching real good. I know he gave up a home run to the Panda late in the game to tie it. And I did see Alec Bohm make some really nice defensive plays at third base today for the Phillies. So that's kind of nice to see. I think he's actually playing a lot better defensively than people expected him to. I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's going to be a nice player for them. But the Cardinals was a game that I was really curious to see what happens with the rotation there. And the other thing that I was kind of following. I know the Dodgers lost, I believe, or they're losing. I don't know if it's final. No, it's 8-5 in the end, and it's close, top of the eighth. But the Padres took the lead. They're up in the eighth now, so they just batted around a little bit in the bottom of the seventh to take the lead. So that's going to be a fun race all year. The Padres and Dodgers. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. You could just see it. Those two teams are going to be fighting all year. So yeah, it's just a fun opening day. It's always great to see. I was real happy to see Lindor sign that extension with the Mets last night. That was something that, being a baseball fan, I think you got to be happy about, because I think it's great for the Mets to have that marquee player, that that big contract. It sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. And in New York, he's going to make even a lot more than that. But those contracts are just worth it for those type of players. There's very few of those players. Right. You got your handful, like Rich said, you got your handful of those special players. And when you get one of those guys, you got to lock them up. And I think it's great that the Mets did it. It's nice to see, even being a Philly fan, the Mets are in the East. It's nice to see the Mets back as a team that's going to be serious about winning again. So,
and I want the Phillies to be good too, right? Like I don't like the Marlins. I really don't like the Braves, right? I got problems with those franchises.
Yeah, me too, Rich. Me too.
I'm down with the Phillies being good. The Mets and Phillies are rarely good at the same time. So if they're both good at the same time, that's just good for baseball, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great rivalry there. And it seems like I do think that the Phillies are going to be a little bit better than people expected. That's going to be a tough division. I mean, the Mets obviously are going to be real tough to beat. The Braves are going to be tough. The Braves have a lot of players and a lot of potential to be very, very, very good. But there's also question marks there where if things don't go right, they could be a middle of the division team. So that division's just so crazy, because even a team like the Nationals, they could run away with the division. They have that potential. They got all those pitchers. Or they could be the last place team in that division. There's just so many crazy things that could happen in that National League East. That's why I think it's the best division in baseball.
The Dodgers had the funniest moment from today, without a doubt, which is Cody Bellinger hitting a home run and Justin Turner thinking he got caught. So he's running back to first, and Bellinger passes him and only gets an RBI single because he overtook the forward runner. So he hits a home run and gets an RBI single, and that is hilarious. And the fact that Cody Bellinger seems to enjoy the things he enjoys partaking in off the field, it makes it even funnier, because that's like the most boneheaded situation I've ever seen from major league players.
It's not funny if he's on your fantasy baseball team, but
that's
it's
true.
Funny in general. Right. So, but yeah, we obviously the trailer dropped from Sony San Diego. We want to get into that, but we talked about the Cubs and the Pirates a little bit earlier. And the Cubs' struggles on the mound, and if you listen to the Cubs broadcast on Marquee Network, you heard Shambi and JD talk often about it being a struggle to feel the ball, and that's what was going on today. And while I do believe that as a former pitcher myself, it does suck when it's freezing out and you're trying to grab a seam and have touch. Okay, I get all of that. But then Rich had talked about the Blue Jays and the Yankees, and you had Ryu and you had Cole on the mound today. Basically the same atmosphere. Winds 15, 20 miles an hour blowing left to right. Wind chills down in the 30s. Game temp was like 42, 43 degrees. And if you really, I watched the game and you look at the stats line. So 13 strikeouts between the two, only 3 walks between the two, 4 earned runs between the two, and they each went almost 100 pitches in basically the same conditions. So good pitching can take place. And while I don't want to compare, it's just a matter of pointing that out, how impressive that was. they weren't sharp at times. I'll give you that. Especially Chris and I talked about it. Obviously, when you get past Cole's fastball, who averages 96, 97, his next three pitches all the way down to his changeup are really incumbent upon movement. And that's hard to do in the cold. It really is, at least control. And I just wanted to point that out. It was impressive watching those guys pitch in that type of environment and with the results that came out of that. So, anyways.
Yeah, I thought
Doesn't
Garrett
it help?
Cole-
Doesn't it help if you have a little, something extra to get that grip?
A lot extra, right?
when that
Allegedly, of course.
When that Yankee game started, I thought Cole was in trouble. He was struggling. He wasn't finding his spots, and I looked to me like yeah, this guy doesn't like pitching in this cold weather. He clearly got it together,
right?
But I thought he was in for a long day when they first got going.
Yeah, because they both at times they were struggling, and I understand that. It happens, especially in the cold weather. But I just wanted to point that out. So, anyways, let's get on to this trailer that dropped from Sony San Diego today. The trailer covered franchise, which is a pretty big deal to a lot of people, and March to October. So I just want to make sure, did we all witness this trailer tonight?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yep.
So Rich did not. Okay. Well, that's no big deal because there wasn't a lot to cover. But Scott, I think I'd like to start with you on this one if I could. You saw it. What did you think?
I liked it a lot. I'm going to save my big reaction for a little bit later because
Okay.
I want to say something a little bit later about this. But I liked what I saw.
Okay.
I like there's a lot of under the hood type stuff.
Absolutely.
Like they fixed a lot of budgeting. They fixed there's a whole different dynamic with trades and player values and a lot of under the hood type stuff that I think the franchise players, the long-term players, are going to be very, very happy with. New menus, which I like. It looks very clean and slick. It's just much more updated. I love the depth chart. I think that depth chart feature that they had was fantastic. I love being able to see where the player values are going to be a years on. I love the overall look of that whole depth chart. It brings me to Out of the Park because it's something that is very similar to what Out of the Park has had for years. So I like that a lot. Obviously, we've talked before about the stadium creator, and we've talked about the integration with that. And I believe they announced that you can replace up to 30 stadiums in the game.
Yeah.
That's
including AA and AAA stadiums, which is
it's fantastic.
Cool.
I mean,
very cool.
So overall, I am very happy for what I expected the franchise updates to be. It's pretty much. I'll be honest with you. It's actually more than I expected. In some regards, and I know, this is going to be a topic of conversation later on in the show again. But I liked what I saw.
I did too. So the thing is, I like quality of life updates for franchise mode, and like the impacting trade logic, impacting contract negotiation logic, making changes to player regression and player development is nice. And then the depth chart and making it easier for you to see what you're going to be looking at in your franchise 2-3 years down the line is going to be big for especially someone like me who's going to be playing with the Pirates, and year one doesn't matter. So being able to see the depth chart, going to an annual budget instead of the stupid weekly budget, which I still have no idea why they put that in the game to begin with. All of these changes are setting the stage and setting the baseline for bigger updates to come down the line. And I know I've mentioned this before in this podcast, and I'm going to say it again. Sony seemingly is setting the groundwork to incorporate March to October in franchise. Those modes are going to be incorporated at some point. They're going to be one and the same. You're going to be able to pick and choose what features from March to October you want, what features from franchise mode you want. March to October, the reason March to October is getting so many changes and so many additions is because it doesn't require them to go back and change 5 years worth of code to make changes. So it's hard to make large scale changes to franchise mode because you're talking about uprooting so much work on franchise mode. If you throw additions into March to October to see if they work, then you can then incorporate them to franchise mode and feel confident about your decision making. So I think that we're 2 years out maybe from something like NBA 2K's My League, where March to October and franchise are one and the same.
Rich, what about you?
I totally agree.
Oh, sorry, Chris. I'll get back to you.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get Rich's perspective coming from out of the park development that has such a deep franchise experience for its users. Obviously, you play the show, right?
Oh yeah,
right. So when
my favorite game.
Right, there you go. So when you come over from OOTP and you go over to the show, are there aspects of, because people complain all the time, they're like, fix franchise, improve franchise, add to franchise, but what a lot of people don't do is tell us why or how. When you play the show, from your perspective, what are some of the things that you think you'd like to see added to the franchise experience on the show?
I am wildly happy with what the show is. Like, it gives me more than I could possibly want. And I'm not saying that for any other reason other than it's completely true. It's completely true. MLB The Show is a spectacular package. And now I'm going to get to play it on a brand new PlayStation 5 console. Oh my God, I can't wait. It plays beautifully. It lets me play the way that I want to. I'm not trying to be an expert. I'm not trying to win any esports competitions. I just like to press a button to swing a bat and see the ball go far and make a diving play and pitch, and feel like I'm actually good at pitching. Like, I don't need to fight with the game, and I don't need to win 17-0, but I don't want to lose 17-0 either, right? Like, I feel like it lets me play the game the way that I want to play it. And that's not like marketing speak. I literally feel like it gives me every opportunity to set it to how I want to play, to feel good about it. Then the way that I used to play MLB The Show for several years was I would, on my treadmill, because I play video games on my treadmill, I would I play a 162 game season with the Mets. I would player lock on an offensive player for the first 2 or 3 at bats. And then, whether it's the 6th or 7th inning, usually after the 3rd at bat, I would then unlock and just play the rest of the game straight up, whatever the score would be. Right. And I did that for like 3 or 4 or 5 years. And I loved that because that was a new thing to do, a player lock. Right. And the ability to go in and go out of it. So, like, I love that. And then when they introduced March to October, that took what I love to do in franchise and blew it up so much better. So, like, I am a devoted fan of MLB The Show. I'm a devoted fan of March to October. The way that I like to play the show is not to get into deep financial, analysis, and not to do drafts 5 years, and not to do the Rule 5 draft, and not to build my international. Like, I'm not saying that's not what other people don't want. I'm just saying for me, right? Yes, my relationship with the show is, it gives me everything I could possibly want. It looks spectacular. It plays spectacular. I love it. Huge fan. I realize I might be part of, some sort of controversy by saying this, but I am not looking for anything more from the franchise mode for the show. I get everything that I want. And again, I know that there are people who have problems with that, but you're asking me, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I work with Out of the Park. I would tell you this if I worked at my old insurance software company, right? Mm-hmm. I love the show. I'm a huge fan of what they do, and I can't wait. I got it, pre-ordered and pre-downloaded, and I'm there day one. I can't wait.
I heard Rich talking about that, the way he plays that game. I can't tell you, for years on the Press Row podcast, he would talk about it, and they would do the rundown of the games that they were playing and what they were having fun with, and Rich always talked about the player lock and how he played it, and how, so it was funny because when March to October was first introduced a couple years ago, Rich was one of the first people I thought of, because I'm like, yep, that's perfect for Rich.
It is.
It's the ideal mode for someone who just wants to play casual, but it's not just casual. It's in depth, but it's casual. It's just weird, but it's a great mode, and it brings what it's supposed to bring to the game. Obviously, there's going to be more things added every year, and they're going to incorporate it into franchise at some point probably, but I think it's going to be very customizable within franchise where you can pick it, pick things and choose and play whatever way you want to play at some point. But yeah, it's funny because I remember hearing that story on the Press Row podcast, and I was like, "Yep, that's perfect for Rich." So,
And
it's great.
Truthfully, I was gonna say, truthfully, if I could make changes to franchise mode, it would be small things like give us a couple more trade slots, make some changes to scouting so I kind of understand what's going on a little bit better. Maybe give us some international signings.
Yeah.
And what else do I need? Like I don't need the superficial stuff added on.
Well, they clearly said in today's feature video that they had that they were laying the groundwork for the future. So they made a lot of under the hood overhauls. They did a lot of stuff, which is nice because that's the first time we've heard that in quite a while, right?
Yep.
So they're obviously they have a plan. And again, we'll talk about this a little bit later, in depth. But I think what they showed us today was actually a lot more than I expected in a lot of regards. And I think most people should be happy with it. Now, are they? No, they're not. And there's people out there who are obviously upset and complaining about things, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But again, I thought it was a very informative video. I thought they showed some really cool features. Again, there was a lot of things that I really liked, and I like Rich said, I'm excited. I mean, you get to play this game on a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. I mean, how great! I mean, we've been talking. I mean, me, Chris, and Chase were talking the other night. How great does MLB 20 play on the PS5? It looks fantastic. I mean,
it's unbelievable.
I mean, it looks like a PS5 game. I mean, I guess that's what a PS5 game looks like because we've only had so many PS5 games, but it plays amazing. I mean, I would argue that the MLB the 20 video game looked better than some of the specific games that have been made for the PS5 that are just PS5 specific. That's how good that game looks. So I mean, to just to see what this game is going to look like when it's released in a couple weeks and we have the specific version made for those next gen systems, I think they're going to be fantastic. I think it's going to look great.
Yeah, and one thing that I wanted to add, and I think this is something that people tend to forget. Sony has told us for years that they could not jam anything else on the PS3 version or PS4 version of the game. They were tapped out. It was literally all they could do. So now this is their first year on next gen with the ability to do more, but they still had to make the game for PS4. And not only did they have to make the game on PS4, they had to make it work on PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and PS5.
Right. In a pandemic.
During a pandemic.
Yeah.
And that should not be. Look at me wagging my finger. that should be understood, right?
Yep, totally agree.
Those guys out of the park. We've been virtual for 10 years, so we didn't really have any changes to how we do things. And our game is 1/100th the size of the show. They were always in the studio shop. That is a dramatic change.
Yep.
Involving not just people being in the same room, but like literal machinery that you need to do the things to make the game do. That is like I am beyond blown away that they're able to pull off a delivery of a next gen version of this game. That is almost a miracle, and it might not even almost. That might be just flat out a miracle on its
own. Well, if you look at it, look at the development cycles for what obviously the next gen versions of these games were in development for years before the pandemic. We know that, but the MLB 20 version of the show released mid-March last year. So pretty much the entire pandemic, these guys have been working through a lockdown, shutdown. They've been out of the studio almost a year pretty much, right? Over a year. And to be able to get, again, I mean, we're talking about things that in some regards, some people are going to say aren't big, but to be able to get the amount of things that we're going to see the quality of the game, which I think is going to be fantastic. Things just the basic things that we're going to see is going to be great. And then you compare it to, again, I'm not, I don't want to trash any other franchises or go attacking the EA or any of the, that's not what I'm trying to say. But, Madden came out August of last year, and things started shutting down March, April, we were talking about. So you figure 4 months or so, the last 4 months of development, 3.5 months of Madden, the developers were obviously stuck at home. But before that, they were working like normal, and just look at how the pandemic affected the release of that game. I mean, there was, and I mean, right? I mean, just think about that.
I got invited to a private meeting with them and the development team. And I think I've talked about this before. And we talked about, they had some time with the game in-house and they didn't have, think about that. You're in-house working on a game, and then boom, just like that, you no longer have access to the facility, to the machines, to everything that you need. And they talked in depth, which I won't go into detail, but they talked in depth about the difficulties of trying to be nomadic in that, like here, there, it was an impossibility. So when I saw what they put out as a development team, people trashed it. I was like, what? Do you guys even know what these people went through to produce a next-gen version of this game? Let's be honest. I know it's in vogue to trash development companies. It happens all the time. Maybe in some cases it's warranted. In most cases, I think most people are a little too harsh. That's just my opinion. But
the problem is most people just don't understand what it takes to make a game.
Yeah.
And then they think it's just as easy as, typing something, or if you have any idea what it's like to just render something that you make.
I can't
on a basic computer that isn't even hooked up to, your server or whatever, unless you're plugged directly into that, it takes forever. The fact that these guys are doing that. Rich, I'm sure you definitely know what it takes to the difficulties of just collaborating with people that when you're not even in the same room. It's difficult. There's a different dynamic to that.
Yep.
You don't, you want more features in the show, fine, but then don't bitch and complain when you end up with Cyberpunk, the show, and nothing works, but you have all the features under the world, in the game. That's the takeaway. You want a game that plays good and is going to give you a fun experience, or do you want a game that's literally unplayable and gets pulled off the PlayStation Store?
Let's stop with this right now, and we're going to come back to this a little bit later because we have something planned for later in the show. But right now, obviously, we brought Rich on for a reason tonight, and obviously, Rich is a huge baseball fan, a gaming fan, and he's a big part of Out of the Park right now. And I'll tell you what, I can't stop playing Out of the Park 2022. So, Rich, how's launch been? How's it been the last week and a half? Or
it's been amazing on every level. The every metric has been off the charts. We Scott, we've known each other for a couple of years, right?
Yep.
We started collaborating on the podcast and on the rosters a couple of years ago, and we went through the pandemic and all the weirdness with that. And Out of the Park, the growth of Out of the Park over the last 3 years in particular has been exponential.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that we would be challenged to have growth this year after the exponential growth of last year. And it turned out that we grew even more this year. It's just been amazing in terms of the number of people, the number of people watching our videos and our streams, the number of people playing the game, the number of people that have created new Perfect Team accounts, the number of people in our Discord server. It doesn't matter what you look at. It's been amazing, right? And I'm still in the throes of trying to understand it, and I don't say that lightly, right? When a lot of things are happening at once, right? You're just sort of trying to make sure you understand what's going on, right? Is everything working? Like, you start at the fundamentals. Is the system running? Yes. Okay, good. What's happening? What's the usage? What's happening here? What do the tournament numbers say? What do the number of teams say? Or do we have all the right? So like, you're making sure that's going on. You're obviously tracking how many people are playing the game. And like after a few days, you're able to sort of take a look back, and then you compare it to last year and the year before, and you're just like, is this right? Are all of those people really playing this game? And then you look at on Twitch and on YouTube, and there's just a lot more people making content about your game.
Yeah.
And so the very long answer to that very simple question, Scott, is it's been unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
We're still, we're still trying to process what we've seen, because it's been that good and that humbling. Because when I started at Out of the Park Baseball 7 years ago, it was a very small community, a very, very, very small community of really, honestly, a few thousand people.
Die-hard baseball fans.
And they're all still here, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they haven't gone anywhere. And the reason that we're successful now is because of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
absolutely.
And that's one of the reasons. And again, this might sound self-serving, so I apologize if it does, but that's one of the reasons that we made so much of an investment this year into the core game, because we wanted to make sure that the people that have been with us all along understood how much that we appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Right? The people who bought Out of the Park 1 and 3 and 7 and 9, who, so we added all the new Major League ballparks. Literally the night before launch, we got the new KBO parks in the game. Literally the night before, because we finalized the KBO license. So that's a whole thing, right? Like, so it's been amazing. And again, as you can tell, I'm struggling for words with how amazing it's been, because I've never been a part of anything like this, and it's really gratifying and humbling and wonderful. And I just can't thank everyone enough. Like, I just want to just say thank you from the rooftops, because it's been so good. And we just want to keep the momentum going. We want to keep everybody happy. We want everyone to be playing. We want everyone to be talking to each other. And when you're in the middle of it, especially the last 3 months before release, you're just doing so many things, right? You're just doing so many things. You don't even realize how hard you're working. And when I say you, I don't mean me individually. I mean the 9 guys who make up this whole company, right? Like, there's only 9 of us. And you spend so much of your time putting it all together, and then you release it. And, it takes a while to even just understand what's going on. And it's been unbelievable. Again, I'm humbled, I'm blown away, and it's been very different. Like, last year was a huge growth from the year before, but it was a different thing because there was no baseball. There was no fantasy baseball. There was no nothing anymore. Everyone was locked in their house for 2 months, right? And all the conversations that I had were all combination of tell me about Out of the Park Baseball and tell me how the pandemic is messing with you, right? Like that was the whole context to everything. And this year the context is baseball. That's it, right? Everyone's glad that there's real baseball that's going on. Everyone understands that that we're in a different place. And so I'm doing, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I mean this in a good way, I'm doing a lot less press, and yet there's more people than ever playing. And that just tells me that this is community driven, right? It's organic, it's real, it comes from the community, and a community knows what's good and they know what's bad. And that's the best part about it, is because the growth comes from the right place. We didn't buy it, we earned it. And I'm proud of the team, and I'm proud of the community, I'm proud of the fans, and I'm just humbled and thrilled. It's been amazing.
Well, Rich, you bring up a great point. I wanted to talk to you specifically. For a game like yours, game development these days are different than it was even 10, 15 years ago. A lot of it's analytically driven. And so for a game like yours, how difficult is it for you and the development team to take the analytics the development team wants and the community feedback and merge them all together and create a symphony for the next title you guys want to put out? How difficult is that for you guys to do?
It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And that's why I think there's so few people that even try.
Yeah.
And again, this is our 22nd game. So we got some practice at this. Thank goodness. Because it takes so much, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm complaining or not. I'm not. Like, it just takes so much to put this together every year.
Yeah.
You know, you guys are talking about the show. Like, to me, the show, especially knowing something about video game development, is a miracle to see it in action. Like, I can't and I'm not even joking. I can't comprehend how this thing gets put together. It's just, there's so much and it's so good, right? So it's really challenging. You know, the good thing is our community is really smart. And, you know, when they ask for things, they come from the right place. And, you know, some things take years, right? It's funny. Last year was the first time we had our ballpark construction kit. This was Marcus. He's the CEO, the founder, the leader, the guy. Like, he is out of the park baseball. It was his dream. When I first met him a few years ago, he's like, my dream is to have a 3D ballpark construction. And like, he got that in last year. That thing took 4 years to work on that, right? So some things just take a really long time. You know, the coaching system stuff that we added this year, you know, it might seem really simple to just add a coaching staff, but when you add a coaching staff, which has impact on teaching your players, you know, different types of coaches can teach different kind of players, different kind of skills, defensive, base running, hitting for power, all of those kind of things. You know, when you put that into an already pre-existing structure, you know, the potential to impact those other structures is exponential, right? So you know, some things take a really long time to put together. But the thing is, the community does a great job of giving us feedback, and we never lack for things to do, which is the nice thing. You know, you would think after 22 years, what could you add to a baseball game? There's always things that you can add. It just comes down to what is going to deliver the most fun for the most people. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, what is going to deliver the most to the people who who have been with us the longest, right? And those are the kind of conversations that you have. And again, it's hard, right? Like, there's no right answer. You know, there's always a lot of different directions you go. So I don't want to sound self-serving, like, oh, we're so awesome, we do everything perfectly. No, you know, we're human beings, but the community helps drive it. And again, that's why I think we're where we are I know that's why we're where we are is because of the community in the game.
Yeah, I remember a few years back when I was working with you guys and helping you guys out doing some roster work. And when I first, you know, got into it with some of the guys, and it was just, I was blown away because we do, you know, obviously doing some of the rosters that we've been a part of and some of the sets that we've been a part of for MLB The Show, you know, the depth and the detail that, you know, Out of the Park goes through with a lot of this stuff is just so intricate. But it's, you know, and it's just, you could tell that everybody involved in the process in every part of the game was just so passionate, not just about the game, but about baseball in general. And just, there's nothing that you guys add to your game that is cosmetic, you know? So when you see that coaching system change, like Rich was saying, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's definitely going to have some crazy interactions. You got to you know, you better make sure you're doing the right thing with that because it's going to affect your teams and your players. And that's what's so great about Out of the Park is everything that's in there is in there for a reason, and it all works so well together. That's the thing about Out of the Park. It's just such a complete package. If you're a baseball fan, I was watching M. Frisk put a video out just on your video, you know, on your game the other day during the release week. And one of the comments he made during the video was, I think I brought it up on last week's podcast here, but it was about Out of the Park just being the ultimate baseball sandbox. And that's just like the perfect word for it because there's just so many different things you could do. There's so many ways you can play. You know, me and Bob were messing around with the classic stadium mods out there and, you know, just so many, you know, Bob sent me that 40 gig file that took forever to download.
And that's from the community. That's a great example of the community. That's all community stuff. That's
it's fantastic. I mean, there's, you know, mods for minor league stadiums. I mean, every minor league stadium you go on, every classics. I mean, it's incredible the amount of detail. You've got, literal mods for hats and jerseys and everything. It's crazy. It really is. And it's so community driven. And that's what makes the game great. And I think, we've talked about that for years. And obviously, we've been a big part of the community with the MLB The Show for, the full minors rosters for years, doing the different things. And, you see this game like out of the park just starting to blow up every year, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And, it's great to see more eyes on it. And, and I'll be honest with you, I love Out of the Park every year. I've been playing it for years, probably at least 10 plus years that I can think of. And I just think this year's version is so fantastic. I love the 3D stadiums. I just love being able to visualize the action, being able to see it, and it just plays so great. So yeah, congratulations. You guys really, really had a great launch this year. It's a really great product. Really
well,
is.
Thank you. I can't take credit for the quality of the product. That's all Marcus and Matt and Andreas and Joran. Like there's only a few guys who actually write the code, but it's an honor to be a part of this company. It really is. And not that it matters, but I left a job a couple of years ago, a full-time job. I was part-time with Out of the Park for a number of years, but I left my full-time job with a very stable job. With a company I'd been with for a long time, to go full time with Out of the Park a couple of years ago. And I did it for a lot of reasons, but the number one reason I did it was because the core product was so good, right? Like when you can be a part of something that is so good, that's something special, right? And so I gambled, but it was an educated gamble, and looking back, it was the smartest thing I've ever done in my career. And I made a bunch of good career decisions. So that's not, I was like, oh man, I did 10, 20 stupid things. This is the one good one. Like I've been blessed in my career.
But you're even your community team. I know Chris Jardine and TJ Lauerman. Those guys are fantastic. They do great. I mean, the Perfect Team content is fantastic. I know they have a new feature to Perfect Team this year. Perfect Draft, I believe it's called.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so the game is just whether you like the online part of the Perfect Team, or you like just the play alone franchise or the online franchise. There's just so many different ways to play. And if you're a baseball fan, it's I was last week when this game came out, we got the beta early. I think for the pre-release, the people who pre-ordered early. So I was one of those guys, and I had it. I believe it was Monday or Tuesday night, and I was like, oh, it's just so nice to be able to sit down and play a 2022 baseball game. It was just so great. Because I mean, realistically, like if you look at the history of MLB The Show, I think this is the first year that MLB The Show hasn't been released before opening day in quite a while. There may be I think it was the PS3 to PS4 maybe that was the one that was. A few weeks later, but it's been a while since we haven't had an MLB The Show game out before the season started. So it was great the way you guys had the game out before opening day, and it's been a lot of fun with it. I'm having a ball with it, and it's one of those games where you literally you play all year round. And I was playing last year's version up until the night before I got the new one, so. It's great. So yeah, we're thrilled that you were able to come on with us tonight, Rich.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
It's a fantastic product. I know we introduced Chris to it a little bit this year. It's the first time he's ever played Out of the Park.
Not the first time, but it's been years since I played it. Yeah, I want to say it was like I don't know, maybe 12, 13, 14 around there is probably the last time I actually had it.
Changed a little bit since then.
Yeah,
it did. It always gets more complex. I've told them, I'm not a big PC gamer, so I have a hard time wrapping my head around playing video games on a PC. I do graphic design, so I don't want to be on a PC all the time.
Dude, I know exactly what you're talking about. I equate being on a computer with being at work.
Yep, exactly.
Talking about, I get it.
Exactly. Plus, especially when you have a Mac, it's a lot different because you're really limited to like 10% of the piece of the games out there. So that's one thing, and then also just like the controller. Like you were saying about the show, like being able to control your guy and swing and pitch. Like that's the type of gamer I am. So
Yeah, no,
but I will say that I would say I will say that it definitely is in depth. I mean, you can get lost. Just like I think I told Scott, like I think I spent 30 minutes on just my lineups, like looking at everything and trying to figure out are these guys on the right levels? You know, do I have there's a depth chart to this thing. Oh, okay. I don't agree with this. I have to change this now. Like that is it's really impressive. So yeah, I love that aspect of the game. It's hard for me to get into PC games, but yeah, I definitely am gonna explore it definitely more this year than I did, the first time I picked it up. I love the classic, the going back in time aspect of it. I mean, that's probably my favorite thing about it.
Yeah, I was the same way. So I streamed it for the first time earlier this week, and I had dipped my toes in the water, but I had never really gotten into it. The micromanaging was always something I had struggled to overcome, but I got my settings locked in on having like my bench coaches handle the minor leagues so I could just focus on the majors, and I had a blast streaming it.
Well, it's funny. I saw Logan's tweet that day. He tweeted out earlier that he was going to, wish him luck or something to that effect. He was streaming out of the park.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to jump into this stream tonight to see what's going on there. So I jump in and I'm like, wait a second, does that mean I'm part of the poo crew? Or
yes, it is.
That's what he calls his audience, the poo crew. So I'm like, I guess I'm part of the poo crew now. So I jump in and I saw him being the Pirates. I think they were playing the Brewers in the first time I jumped in, and the Brewers were beating the Pirates, of course, because the Pirates just lose all the time. So then, but then I saw him get into, some of the historical stuff, and you could see the progression as he was playing it longer and longer, and he was like, oh, this is, you could just see him, just getting more into it and enjoying it more. So it was really cool to see, just the overall, your whole crew that was watching that night were just so into it and just like on every pitch and every at bat that you were playing. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm going to be starting a franchise with the 2017 Pirates before they traded Cole, Glasnow, and Meadows, and I'm going to fix the future. I'm going to go back and undo the destruction of the franchise. But but honestly, like I had so much fun with it that it's going to show up on my streams more often. Yeah. But I'm with you on feeling like when I'm sitting at a PC, I'm working, right? Because I'm a lawyer, so it's the same way for me. I sit at a PC for 8 hours a day to work, and when Out of the Park Go comes out, and I can play it on my iPad, I literally am not going to put my iPad down. It's going to be so addicting to just sit on my iPad and play the mobile version of it.
What is the status of that, Rich? What's the plan for the mobile version of Out of the Park?
Oh, the plan is to get it in your hands as soon as possible.
That's a good plan. That's
right.
Very good plan.
We actually, and this is all public information. I'm not giving anything away. We actually were going to release it in like February, but we decided, and I think it was the right decision, to put it on hold, put the finishing on hold. And I use the word finishing for a reason, to put the finishing on hold, because we wanted to have everybody in the company working on making Out of the Park Baseball 22, the PC game, the best version that it could be. And I think that was the right decision, because I think Out of the Park Baseball 22, this will sound like duh, but I think this is a very special version of our game, right? Like I love every version of the game that I've been a part of, but I already have a sense from a lot of people independently that this version of the game is a special one, right? Like there's certain Out of the Parks that stand out above others. Like the very first one that had the Major League Baseball license is one of those, it's kind of like our MVP 2005 is that one, you know what I mean? And I think ultimately this one is going to be remembered, as the special one. So we made that decision, and I think it was the right decision. And now we are focused a lot on our next target, which is delivering the version that's localized in Korean. That's coming soon, the PC. And then getting Out of the Park Go into everybody's mobile devices after that. So, I want to say the dates, but the dates are on a whiteboard because, video game development is very challenging. especially when you're working across 3 continents, which is what we do. We have a Germany studio, we have a North American studio, we have a Germany studio, a US studio, a Canadian studio, and a Seoul, South Korea studio. So you can imagine the logistical challenges of managing that, right?
Wow.
So, but yeah, there's a great forum post on our forums that has all sorts of screenshots and all sorts of information. So if you want to know about Go, like if you want to see what it's going to look like, it's all right there. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
You don't need to listen to me. You can go look at it on the forums. Like, it's going to be incredible. It's going to be out of the park on a phone, which I didn't think was possible. And I don't mean like, that's not hyperbole. Getting out of the park on a phone it could really kind of only be done now. Like this, the phones couldn't even handle this 2 or 3 years.
That's the other thing.
Honestly, I think it's a great idea. I like that right there. Like I know I have talked to Scott previously, but even before the release of 22, and like he's like, "Oh, you're gonna play it this year? What are you thinking?" I'm like, "I don't know. I want to give it a try." I'm like, "But I would really like if it was mobile. Like that would make me in a heartbeat pick it up." And I mean, you're going to open the door, I think, to even more people wanting to play it, because there really isn't a good mobile version of any type of baseball game out there. I mean, at least I don't think so. Quality wise, So I think like with the amount of features you have, like, I mean, that's awesome. Just be able to, if you're sitting waiting for somebody, or you want to just look down and I mean, I'm always scrolling through Twitter or something. So it's like, that's going to be different. Like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll play a quick game, or maybe I'll manage, this or that. Like, I think it's a great idea. I'm really looking forward to Go.
Yeah, the other thing too is Rich touched on it before for a second, but I want to make sure that anybody who's out there who might be on the fence about it, if you're looking into Out of the Park, go to their website, and they have a great community tab with a forum, which their forums are fantastic. It's not like some other forums, we won't name any names, where you go in there and it's total toxic fighting all day long. But if you go into Out of the Park, it's fantastic. Everybody's very helpful. There's so many different sections where you can go in and just look at the mods. You could look at the different years, different versions of the game, and they're very active. They'll post when the patches are updated, they'll post the information there right away. I know there was a patch released, I believe, last night, or there was just recently a patch release, and they had all the details right there. So it's great. And if you're on the fence, you just want to say, hey, maybe I want to pick up that game, go check out those forums, because those forums have a lot of information, a lot of screenshots, a lot of details on the game, so you can actually see some of the stuff before you you decide to dive in. So I'm sure that once you do check out those forums, it's going to make you want to dive in even more. So especially Nutsy saw the Out of the Park Go there and was ready to buy it right then and there. So yeah, check it out. That's for sure.
Yeah, we're that's the plan, right? Got the PC version shipped. We want the Korean localized version next, and then we're gonna work all hands on deck to finish up Go and get it out there.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to be back in just a little bit, but Rich, we don't want to keep you on here forever, because if we did, I could talk to you for another 2 or 3 hours easily. But I know we talked before. You talked about, I think, what, four sleepless nights in a row before release.
Yeah, it's really it's a never-ending list of stuff to do. Making a game, releasing a game, distributing a game. So it was a lot, but it was worth it, right? It was clearly worth it, and that's all you want. You want your work to be worth something and mean something, and it does. So we're all very happy.
Absolutely.
Rich, honestly, thank you for hanging with us tonight, and coming on, talking some baseball. And we appreciate, obviously, you and I have a friendship that goes back a few years, and I respect the hell out of your work that you guys do, and I love the game that you guys create. So congratulations to all you guys for what you did this year. I think it's phenomenal, and it sets the bar for other video games and other baseball games. We always look at MLB The Show or some of these other franchises, and we say, if they could just get that Out of the Park engine in that game, don't we say that? How many games do we say that about?
All the time.
We say that with 2K, NBA 2K. And 2K has probably the best console franchise available. Their franchise is phenomenal. But we say that with literally every console video game we play. We say it with obviously Madden, who, we won't get into those issues. But if we could just get that out of the park engine or some form of it into a console video game, it would be phenomenal. So
I like both. Having both is cool with me. You know what
absolutely.
I mean? We're good.
No.
Absolutely. But yeah, thank you again for coming on, and it's a fantastic product. So we appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Appreciate the love. Thank you everybody who's watching. I love what you guys do. I've known Bob and you and me go way back. Scott, you and me go way back. Good to connect with you, Chris and Logan, and I look forward to doing this again in the future.
Absolutely. Anytime you want to come on and just hang out with us.
Always welcomed. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, you may have to witness Bob and Logan going at it occasionally over the Pirates and Cubs, but
it's all right. I'm a Mets fan. I've seen everything.
Hopefully, Rich, later on in the season, you can come back on and we'll be talking about the Phillies and the Mets battling for first place in the East.
How great would that be? I love it.
Awesome.
I'm there.
Yep.
Just count me in.
Me too.
Awesome. All right, guys. Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Take care, Rich.
Appreciate it.
Good
Thank
seeing
you,
bud.
Got it.
Wow. I literally meant that. I could talk to Rich for just hours. He does such a great job of just doling out information in a way that's easy to consume for someone who doesn't understand game development and what goes into it. Yeah, just great.
Yep. Rich is truly one of the great guys in the video game industry. And doing what we do and being a part of different things like we've been a part of for the last so many years, and meeting and interacting with people from social media and video game companies and all across the sphere of the different video games that we deal with and we're a part of and we interact with. Rich is truly one of the really good guys that's out there, and it was great to have him on tonight. I'm glad he came on. So thanks again, Rich.
Yep, absolutely. So now, were we at the segment here where Scott, you had something to say? Is that what
we're just gonna?
Well, let's
poop on content creators.
Wait, hold on. Let me get ready for this. Hold on.
No, do it Kruk style. Put that on backwards, buddy. You're gonna need it.
Backwards? Yeah.
Yep.
I want to protect myself against the flying objects.
Do you want to show off the Stamos hair one more time before we?
The Stamos hair?
Look? Yep. All right.
It actually got trimmed finally for like the first time in forever. It was a little bit getting a little crazy.
It still looks like 70s shag carpet. And no, I'm not jealous.
Says the bald man.
Yeah. All right.
Bald man.
So now that Rich has gone in again, I didn't want to have drag Rich into this, because I think the four of us kind of have we have things that we see out there and we hear and we see on social media and we see on forums and websites and all this other kind of stuff that sometimes just is a critique of a game or a development studio or whatever it would be, and like Bob said earlier, some of it is justified. I mean, there are critiques of things, but sometimes it's just clickbait. Let's call it what it is, and I feel as though we've had this argument for years, dating back to some time on OS, and I was a member of OS, still am, very proud, love that site, fantastic sports gaming site, about the content creators and who's a content creator, who's not a content creator, all that kind of stuff. And my version of a content creator is anybody who creates content for a video game, and that could be if you're creating a slider set, if you're creating a roster, if you're creating a face, if you're creating a stream, if you're creating a franchise on stream, if you're whatever you're creating, you're a content creator. I mean, who defines content? I don't think there's a specific definition of content creator when it comes to video games. It's just whatever we deem as content, right? And I think there's just so much. Again, we go back and we talk about these video games and the development time that they had, during the pandemic. And obviously, we talked a little bit about Madden before. Madden was developed for probably 7 or 8 months. If we look at just development time in a year standard, Okay, like you release a game and then you have a year to the next game. You know, if we look at it just like that, okay, we obviously know some games are in development for years and there's different aspects of games that are in development for years. But if we're just looking at the year-to-year game, and Madden was in development for about 7.5, 8 months almost before it was released, and you know, we saw what the issues were when that game came out. You know, and you can't blame the studio. I mean, it was a pandemic; they got locked down, and they pretty much had to work from home for the last few months. But it was, I'll be honest with you, the Madden release was a mess. We all know it. It was a complete mess. You know, and the game came out. It was pretty much the same game as the year before. You know, they've patched it subsequently since then, and they put in some nice patches, and there's been some nice upgrades to it. But even the next gen version of Madden, what did they have in there? I mean, we didn't even see gameplay, I don't think, until the night before release, maybe, or there was no there was like a gameplay trailer, which kind of wasn't even really gameplay. It was just kind of, you know, put together, and then there was actually no gameplay footage until the game was released. And then we've seen the different patches that have come out to, you know, since then, and Madden plays a fairly decent, good game of football this year. It's not great. It's Madden. It is what it is. I mean, franchise mode has a lot of issues. Are there things I like in franchise mode in Madden? Yeah, there are things I like. You know, I think they've got a plan now. They came out with a video not too long ago, you know, detailing some of their plans, and it looks like they're going to go back to the coaching carousel and coordinators and all that kind of stuff, which is fantastic. That's the stuff that we all loved in the old Maddens and NCAA footballs. But when it comes to, you know, MLB The Show, let's face it, it is a fantastic video game. It is the game that we all play year round. You know, and you see the same guys that are complaining that play the game year round, just about every little thing that they do or they don't do. And I just think a lot of it is just, again, would I love to see, you know, trades tweaked to a certain extent to where, you know, we could add more players in, or would I love to see, you know, editable draft class or any of that stuff that we've talked about in the past? Of course I would, you know, and I think in due time we will. But for what we saw in the time period that they had to develop the game, and again, they've been on lockdown for a year like everybody else, I think we got a really nice franchise upgrade. You know, the stadium creator alone, you know, that stadium creator looks fantastic. Just think about all the different things that you could do in that state. You now could create a fictional franchise with 30 fictional stadiums. How awesome is that? I mean, you could play your franchise. You could have all your real minor league stadiums or created stadiums. You could fix all your minor league stadiums the way you want them in there. You could play classic historical seasons with historical rosters. You could create the historical stadiums and put them in there. There's so many different ways that you can play now. You know, that, like we talked about before, the depth chart, the under the hood tweaks, which, Chris, I mean, you know, we've been talking for years about this. I mean, some of those under the hood tweaks were needed for years and years. I mean, am I wrong? I mean, are they the same thing that we've been talking about for what, 4 or 5 years, maybe more? Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, like even Logan said, that they've been very open about how maxed out they were on the PS4. You can only do so much. You know, like there was that one year that they released, I forget which version it was, when you could only have like 5 roster save files. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the reasons for it was because they put stuff in the game and they needed to make space and they had to make a sacrifice. I mean, you can only do so much at certain times. They maxed out the PS4 console. That should be, that's a good thing. That means that they pumped so much into that game that there literally wasn't technology available enough for them to go more. I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, you know, and they've always been very, you know, systematic with doing things the way they do. They have not really released a game that's been broken since I can remember. I mean, yeah, there's been patches and stuff that sometimes screw up gameplay and stuff, but they're quick to try to fix things, you know, if that does happen. But the game plays great out of the box. It has for years, and like that should be the most important thing, you know. And
absolutely,
the under the hood stuff, like what they showed there's a plan for it. Like they're going to keep going in certain directions with things, and people need to just realize that. Like that's how they develop. That's how they've been developing the show for years. There's some plan there, and that stuff needs to happen. You don't build a house on a beach. Like you have to make sure that foundation of the game is strong, especially moving into a brand new system that we don't even know the capabilities of yet. They're going to have 7-8 years, who knows, a decade worth to build on it and to play in that sandbox. So let them. I'm absolutely fine with the stuff that we saw. I mean, there's the people that complain. It's just like you said, it's clickbait, and some people they're just never happy. So some people don't know how to be happy unless they're angry too.
Well, I just before we came on the air tonight, I'm seeing all these tweets, and people are saying, "Oh, it's just they did nothing," and it's no. What are you talking about? Did you watch the same video that I watched? I mean, those fixes that they put in there are going to make franchise 1,000 times better than it was. Like, how can you say that there's nothing put in there that's the same game?
And then
that's like what? Like
I was gonna say,
I wish there was more, but are you kidding me? Like
real quick, hold on, Logan. Before this too, if you go back to January and February, there's people complaining, we're not seeing anything. We're not seeing anything. We're not seeing anything.
Yep.
Okay. So they show a Stadium Creator. Well, then when their franchise mode thing drops, you've known about Stadium Creator for a month.
Mm-hmm.
So that effect has worn off. Now think about if they didn't show us anything and then they dropped that franchise thing today.
Yep.
Everybody would have been blown away at how in depth that Stadium Creator is. But no, we've had an entire month to ingest it and sit there and look at it. So of course, what more do you want them to put into the game? Like, they're showing you little bits. Like they're trying to give you like little breadcrumbs to get excited, but these videos essentially end up becoming just informational because you already know about what's coming. I mean,
it's again. I mean, if you look at the things that were added, the under the hood stuff, the new menus, the depth chart system. And the Stadium Creator, I'm ready. Like for me, give me the game. That's all I need. I mean, it's going to, this game is going to be a huge hit.
Yeah.
So we could sit here and the same people that are crying about it tonight. Okay, let's mark this down. If you go on Twitter and you check out the people that are tweeting about it and crying about it, the content creators that are out there complaining, are going to be the ones streaming it every single day. And again, they're going to say, well, I would stream it. I love baseball, whatever. They'll
be streaming it on the 16th.
Exactly. So
yeah,
the game, listen, it's a pandemic year. These guys are human. But I think what they're giving us is more than I expected. I think it's, I expected some cosmetic things, all the under the hood stuff, I think is going to be even better than we realize it's going to be. And I think there's more under the hood stuff than I thought there was. And just the fact that you can do the 30 stadiums, like I said, the 30 stadiums across all the different levels, that adds so much to the game.
This is my whole issue is we're putting franchise mode in this little box, right? We need franchise mode improvements. We need franchise mode improvements. We need franchise mode improvements. Them adding the simulation game style, them adding Stadium Creator, them fixing the gameplay and making sure the gameplay on point is all franchise mode improvements, because franchise mode isn't exclusively what's going on in the menus when you're trading someone or when you're setting your lineup. If franchise mode is fantastic and the game plays like crap, the game's not going to be good. So them focusing to make the gameplay on point, them adding Stadium Creator, them adding things that are going to be involved in franchise mode is franchise mode changes. And I am admittedly harder than anyone on EA Sports. I My whole half of my TikTok is just me talking about franchise mode changes and upgrades I would like to see on Madden. I stay respectful. I'm not taking shots at them, pot shots at them, but I understand that game needs updates. It needs to, move the needle after, year after year after year of lacking changes. We can't say the same thing about San Diego Studios. And I've seen people on Twitter try to argue that San Diego Studios and EA are in the same breath at this point. And that is just mind bending to me. Like, SDS puts out a quality game every single year. And although we don't get every mode or every feature that we want every year, at the end of the day, the game's still fantastic.
Yep.
We're fighting over little things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Scott and I were talking before we went live. If they would have come out today and just said, hey, here's your stadium creator, and went in depth for an hour and talked about that, I would have shed a magical tear in my eye. If we've never heard of it before today, and they talked about that, talked about the 30 slot saves, importing, being able to share the content that we create. I mean, that is mind-blowing. I didn't say any bad words there. I wanted to. But yeah, that is mind-blowing.
You could, Bob. You could.
I could. But I mean, and I understand this. I'll also say this. It's unfair for me to look at other people and say it has to be mind-blowing for them. Okay? It doesn't. It's a subjective idea, and I get that. But for me, they could have said nothing else and just said, hey, for franchise this year, Bob, you get Stadium Creator, and you get to import it for up to 30 teams, and you can mess around with minor league teams.
That's already more than what people were asking for years. Yes. People just wanted to build one stadium. They gave us 30. And they gave us the ability to do it for the minor leagues if you want. Yep. Instead of doing it for the major league team.
And every time we see Stadium Creator, they showed it off again today. It gets more and more and more in depth.
Yep.
The first time they showed it off, I was like, I'm scared that this is going to be bare bones. And then they showed it today during the franchise stream, and it's like, holy God, the amount of just changes that you're going to be able to make to stadiums, the amount of depth you're going to be able to put in these stadiums is going to be just unreal. Like, I feel so bad for my Madden fans, my Madden friends out there, because what SDS gave us this year is what Madden has been asking for years.
Yep.
I was hoping to get SpongeBob Stadium Creator for the show, but that's just me.
No, but that's the point of the whole rant here is that, look at what we got in this game, and then you look at what we get in these other games. And again, I mean, 2K, their franchise is phenomenal. They have different broadcast packages. They've taken it to the next level, and they always have. Well, not always, but the last 5 or 6 years at least, it's been, fantastic. Always been very good, but it's gotten better. MLB The Show is the same. It's always a quality video game. It's always one of the top sports titles every single year, if not the top sports title. It's the game. I mean, I'm a baseball fan, but I'm a sports fan, and if when I was first into video games years ago and I first started playing, I would play all the different, baseball games, MVP, Tony La Russa, all the different ones that were out, and then Madden would come out and Madden would be my game. I would play Madden all year round. I love Madden and NCAA football. And then at some point, once I started realizing how great the show started taking over my life, and I started just playing that all the time. And that was years ago, and it's been that way since. And, we're creatures of habit where we're not going to go back to something if it's not a quality product, if it's not good. Just, like we were just talking about Out of the Park with Rich, like it's a really well-made game. There are issues. There's issues with every game. There's always going to be issues.
Yeah, always.
But you can tell that they put a lot of love into it. The franchise menus look crazy good, very clean. That's what I really liked about it. I really, really love that depth chart stuff. I think that stuff is laying the foundation for what's coming.
Yeah.
I think there's so many things in there you could look and you could say, oh, wow, I could really see, part of Out of the Park in there. It's got Out of the Park touches in there. And we're always saying, like I said to Rich before, we're always saying, hey, if we can only get the out of the park franchise, you're never going to get that in a video game, a console video game. You're never going to get the depth of out of the park in MLB The Show. We could want it all we want. You could want a lot of things. There's a lot of things I want that I'll never get. But
well, maybe 50 years from now, but it's not happening anytime soon.
But exactly. So, but I'm saying, we got to be happy. No, and again, we can still complain. People have the right to their own opinion. I'm not saying you don't have your, but I just think that we take it to a whole other level when we're sitting there and you just watch the same stream that the four of us watched, the same video, and to be out there saying they didn't do nothing, they didn't change nothing, nothing's at, like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Is there everything we wanted? No. But I mean, I've talked to you guys, and then we've talked to a couple of our other buddies in our close group that we have before we went live tonight, and every one of them was relatively very happy with what we saw today. All the additions, and we're as critical as anybody else. I mean, we're franchise players. That's what we play. So it's just, I just find it ironic that the guys that are complaining are the guys that might spend their time playing franchise and the other half playing DD, when guys like us who are just core, we just play franchise constantly, and we're happy with it. So it's just weird that and again, I understand
I only play franchise if I have time, not because I'm usually busy creating players.
But I do understand. Like I said, I just want to make this point. I do understand that there are things we want to see added. I want to see things added. There's things we all want to see added to every sports game we play. But I think in this specific year, for this specific situation and what has been going on, we weren't even sure there was going to be a next gen version a couple months ago, right? Weren't we talking about that? Mm-hmm. So, I don't think that what we saw was disappointing at all. Like I said, I was very happy with it. I'm more excited today than I was, yesterday about franchise mode. No matter what, I'm super excited to get my hands on this game in a couple weeks when it comes out. So, I just think sometimes we're reaching for, just things to complain about, when, we just need to obviously look at the whole situation and what's going on. So that's all.
Yeah. I actually have seen people on Twitter tonight say that because they took away year-to-year saves, franchise mode will, as a whole, be worse this year than it was last year. And I just have to sit there and think, how can you watch that stream today and think that franchise took a step back?
The carryover saves is the thing that has everybody upset. And I have a franchise I'd love to carry over and rosters and stuff I'd love to carry over. But you've got to understand, we're going to a completely new systems, and it looks like everything was tuned with these players around logic and everything else, and that stuff might not work with some of the older versions of the game. So unless you want to have a importable franchise from 2019 or 18 or whatever and bring it over and have it completely broken, I mean, why would you want that? So I would rather take, you take a year. It is what it is. We have to start fresh with a lot of stuff. But it's building the foundation for what's going to come, and, obviously people are upset about it, but it's what happens. I mean, sometimes things change, and sometimes, we just got to move forward with it. And obviously it's a different systems, a lot of changes going cross platform. And I think that, I think people just need to get their, the game in their hands and play it and see what it's like when they actually get their game, the game in their hands. And, I think once people start playing it, the complaints are going to go away, especially in regards to that carryover save thing. Right now it's the big thing. Yeah. It's a big thing to complain about. But once they get their game in their hands and they start creating their players and starting their fresh franchises, it's, those complaints will still be there, but they're going to go to a much smaller amount of complaints.
And Sony, clearly labeled. They know that is a feature that people like. It's not like they just removed it and have been completely quiet on the whole thing.
Well,
so like
aware of that.
they're well aware that people want it in there. So I would say, if anything, if you don't see it in the next year, then go ahead and complain about it. Right. If it's not in 22, then by all means, there's some reason for it. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It is what it is. You never were able to carry over anything from last gen to next gen.
You can carry over franchise into any other sports game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so we're complaining about a feature that is only available in one game, and we're making it out to be this thing that was taking away from every game that we play, or we're basically making it out to be, okay, this feature is in every other sports game, and MLB The Show took it out. No, it's not. It's not. It was never there. It's not in Madden. It's not in 2K. Yes, it's upsetting that it was taking out. I understand people being upset about that. I get it. But again, they didn't just take it out just to do it. They took it out for obviously there's reasons they did it, and we have to kind of act like adults and say, okay, well, obviously it's not working for some reason, so they had to take it out, and they will do their best to implement it at some point in the future, whether it's in an update this year or next year. But at some point, I'm sure they will, listen to the community. Sony listens to the community. They do, and they interact with the community. And, they will try their best to get it back in the game if possible, if it works. So, again, I think there's a lot of overreaction, and, there's things that we all want to see added that at some point we hope to be added. But it's one of those things where, you look at the time of year, you look at the pandemic, you look at everything going on, and I'm very happy with what they did.
Yep, I would agree. Scott, why don't you talk about what's going on next week? What do we have going on Monday and Thursday show?
Ooh, so next week we got some big shows. We got a lot of good stuff going on next week. We've got we're going to have Jesse Bear from the Rangers back with us with minor league pitcher from the Rangers organization. And also we're going to have Jason Ochart, the minor league baseball hitting coordinator for the Phillies, is going to come on with us. And we're going to talk minor league baseball. We're going to talk Driveline. He's a Driveline guy. We're going to talk a bunch of different things going on. He's been working with a lot of the minor leaguers in Phillies camp. And I think he was recently assigned to AAA Lehigh Valley to work with Scott Kingery. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll have a lot of fun. But we've got some awesome shows coming up. We've got MLB The Show coming out in the early release is the 16th. So you're talking 2 weeks. Yeah. 2 weeks from tonight will be. We might as well just say it now. We're going to do a live show the night of release of MLB The Show. We're going to come on at 7 p.m. I believe, and we're going to go. Hot dogs. Nutsy and Bob will be in the ring together.
Yep.
Duking it out.
We'll leave that because it's a show for kids.
Yeah, that's all we're gonna say. But we're going to go from 7 p.m. until the game releases at midnight that night. So we're gonna go 5 hours. We're gonna have a lot of cool stuff. We're gonna have some guys from MLB, some guys from MILB, some tons of Scout Scoops content creators, just guys from MLB The Show community, just a lot of surprises, a lot of fun. Yeah. So we're going to go for a big, long 5-hour stream. Bob's going to take a big nap that day, so he's all rejuvenated and ready to go.
Yep. The beer helmet with Red Bulls.
Yep. Me and Bob are actually going to polish our heads that day, so our heads are nice and shiny for the whole show.
Yep.
and we'll even have the members of the Pooh crew joining us as well, Nutsy.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Chris is going to have a Cubs jersey on, so it's going to be a fun show. But
no way.
Hey, I was doing the sign off. You can't talk during the sign off.
No, and wait.
when you put me in a Cubs jersey, I am absolutely talking during the sign off.
Chris has also said that when this show comes up on April 15th, that if the White Sox are under 500, he will shave his head live on air.
I never no.
Go Angels.
Actually, next week's going to be very interesting because I may be attending like 7 games in a row, so I may be doing part of this podcast from the bleachers of White Sox Park.
We'll take it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
We'll take that. That'll be great.
Absolutely. It'll
yeah,
look like
so-
any other normal White Sox game with only people scattered throughout the stands. So, yeah. So, anyways, but as always,
Oh, I can't wait for the Pirates to be 3-0 by Sunday.
but anyways, we obviously I want to thank Chris and Logan and Scott for being here tonight. And we've already said it, but we want to thank Rich again for coming on. It was a lot of fun. And last, we want to thank everybody who just joined us tonight. Had a great show, a lot of fun, a lot of community involvement. Once again, if you want to listen, you can do it live on Twitch. You can do, we're going to have it on YouTube, but it'll be on our podcast. And so we just want to say thank you to everyone for being part of our community. We appreciate it. And with that, it is time for us to say goodnight one more time, and we will see everybody on Monday. Have a good night,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.